this presentation and to share with you just some amazing information about the industry that I love so much, and hopefully that to help you find your new career passion. Okay, so today we're going to be discussing how to unlock a career in cosmetology and aesthetics. Next slide, please. So, first of all, let's define a little bit about cosmetology and about aesthetics. So, cosmetology comes from the Greek word kosmetikos, which refers to how to being skilled in the art of cosmetics or the art of beautification. So, cosmetology includes practices to care for and beautify the hair, skin, and nails. So, I'll talk a little bit about our most ancient ways of enhancing our beauty. But I do want to say before we move on that you can always find more information from our California State Board of Barbering and Cosmetology. So I've put the link here, and I'll be referring to State Board a little bit later in my presentation. So, as I mentioned, cosmetology is one of our most ancient practices because people have always been looking for ways to color their hair, their nails, and their lips. And in like Ice Age cultures, they were using berries and leaves and different kinds of pigments to create those changes. So, cosmetology was practiced in cultures like ancient Egypt, China, and Rome. They used various materials to make cosmetics, perfume, decorate their fingernails, and change their hair color. So, for example, in Egypt, artisans ground minerals into coal, which is a dark eyeliner that we often see depicted in murals and art from this time. And like a lot of beauty treatments, this had a purpose as well as a decoration. So Egyptians used coal to protect their eyes from the glare of the sun and also from the dust. In China, long nails, which were a status symbol, were typically dyed with ground beetles or minerals and often had like gold decorations applied. And then in Roman culture, women used different solutions to change their hair color from their natural brown to black, red, or blonde, according to their role in society. So, in the cosmetology industry in the US, each state has slightly different requirements to practice and a school system to train new stylists. But in Europe, an apprentice system is more common for training new people in this industry. Okay, next slide. So, what is aesthetics? This is a slightly different industry than cosmetology. It's a slightly different license. So, although cosmetology and barbering were established around the turn of the 20th century, the first school for estheticians opened up in 1965. So, while most cosmetologists work in salons, most estheticians work in spas. So, they specifically learn how to care for the skin, including facial treatments, hair removal, and they can also beautify the brows and the lashes. And they often do makeup as well. So, this is a rapidly growing industry today because spas and med spas are just having a huge renaissance right now with a growing demand for treatments, including injectables, lasers, facial massage, and different types of exfoliants and peels. Next slide. Okay, a little bit about me. Why I'm here delivering this information for you. So first and foremost, the experience of helping someone to love their appearance and to feel like their best self, that is really why I love doing what I do with cosmetology and aesthetics. So, as Lori mentioned, I'm dual licensed. I've been a cosmetologist since 2007. I'm an alumni of the College of San Mateo. And I went back for my esthetician license in a crossover program in 2022 at Skyline College. So I worked for I worked in the salon for about 10 years full time before I really switched to teaching to my current role as a professor at Skyline College. And while I was in the salon, I developed a few specialties, including special occasion styling, like for weddings and for proms, dimensional blondes. So I love blonding, I love creating balayage, and I also really like creating pixie cuts. As an esthetician, I get really, really into facial massage. And I also really, really enjoy just providing a relaxing experience for my clients, and also learning how to do microdermabrasion and chemical peels. So currently, as I mentioned, I'm a professor at Skyline College in our barbering, cosmetology, and aesthetics department, and I've been there about 10 years. So currently, I run the student salon. We are open to the public 3 days a week, and we offer cutting, color, chemical texture services. And it's really just a joy to help my students develop their skills and get ready to enter the industry. Next slide. Okay, so let's talk about some possibilities for a career in cosmetology. So cosmetology, out of our three licenses, cosmetology, aesthetics, and barbering, cosmetology is kind of the broadest license because this includes hair, skin, and nails. All of those things are included in our curriculum. And there's a lot of different career paths that are open to cosmetologists. The first and probably the most common career path here is that of a hairstylist. So, just kind of as a general hairstylist, you might be creating color, cutting, styling, and personalizing looks for every client. If you're interested in specializing, that might look like being either specifically a designer or a colorist. So, if you're interested in specializing, then that would include a lot more professional development under training under a master designer or a master colorist to just do cutting or color. So typically these two people will work in as a team to really play off of each other's skills and to each work in their strength to create those looks for a client. Cosmetologists can also work as nail technicians. In California, there are manicuring programs as well, but that's also included under a cosmetology license. So, nail techs beautify the hands and the nails with manicuring, pedicuring, and custom nail design. I'm sure many of you have seen nail designs trending on Instagram or on TikTok. Nails are really having a moment with customized looks involving, 3D nails or like nails that have liquid or floating things in them. Nails are really having a moment right now. So we're having a lot of students really want to develop their interests and their skills and artistry in nails. Next slide. Okay. So another bunch of career paths open to cosmetologists would include makeup artistry. So typically, a makeup artist will work, they might have a studio, but they often work on location to create bridal, evening, or fashion looks on location. So they'll take all of their kits, all of their lights to work on location for bridal parties or to help people prepare for special events. As a makeup artist, you could also specialize in like high fashion or editorial effects, or even go into special effects using prosthetics to create like elf ears or like scars if you want to work in horror movies. A lot of makeup artists will kind of choose one or the other, either kind of glamour makeup or special effects. You could also specialize as a special occasion stylist. So I did mention this earlier. I've done a lot of weddings. Again, this is something that you do on location where you go to a wedding venue or a party venue and kind of help everyone get ready in the same room by prepping hair and assembling special occasion updos. And then finally, you could be an educator, like me. There's a lot of options for educators because you could work in a school training students who are working towards getting their license. But since professional development is such an important part of our industry, there's a lot of opportunities to partner with a brand like Redken or Wella or Rusk or Aquage to teach either small classes or to work at trade shows to teach larger audiences. Okay, next slide. So, what are some careers that are available for estheticians? So, a lot of estheticians become waxing specialists or hair removal specialists. So they'll specialize with either soft wax, which is with a strip, or hard wax to remove hair on the face and the body. So a lot of specialties here might include like just doing brow styling or specializing in Brazilian waxing or body waxing. Estheticians might be just general facialists and provide facial treatments for relaxation or hydration, or they might develop, again with professional development, into offering exfoliating treatments like microdermabrasion or chemical peels. And finally, the estheticians might choose to be lash or brow artists. So a brow artist is going to like actually map out, tint, and groom the brows. And a lot of lash artists will customize particular looks for their clients who choose to wear eye extension or eyelash extensions. Okay, next slide. So, if you're entering the industry, there are usually three types of ways to start a career in either cosmetology or aesthetics. And it's kind of hard to predict which arrangement is going to work best for you, but there are some things that you can kind of consider as you're thinking about how to create your career, right? So the things to consider are your level of professional experience. So that means not in this industry, but what have you done before, right? How much work experience are you bringing to this? How well do you budget? And also, how big a personal network do you have? So I'll walk through the different arrangements and then I'll kind of bring it home with how you can apply those ideas. So, an assistant or an apprenticeship position, this is typically a 2-year program that a lot of local salons offer. We partner with a lot of local salons who are looking to grow recent graduates into full-fledged stylists. So, in an apprentice program, you'll work as an assistant, which means you'll kind of generally support people in the salon at the same time that you are training and growing your clientele. So, an assistant might be doing a little bit of reception and scheduling. They might be doing shampooing and blow drying. They might be tearing foils or mixing color. They might be folding towels or doing retail. This is kind of a catch-all for a lot of different jobs in the salon or the spa. But also, as I mentioned, since you're an employee of the salon, typically they'll be training you at the same time. So a lot of apprentice programs offer like Education once a week, where you're expected to provide a model for a specific service, right? So that might be in a salon, you're practicing cutting bobs or balayage, or in a spa, they might be training you on a particular chemical peel. And then once you've kind of assessed out of that and done a model for that service, then that service would be added to your books and you can see clients for that. So assistants or apprenticeships are a really great place to get started. After that, it's typical to move to a commission arrangement where you're splitting operating costs with that business. So typically commissions are like a 50-50 or a 60-40 split because that business is absorbing a lot of the cost of doing business, right? So that's rent, utilities, products, laundry. We go through a ridiculous amount of laundry. um, and you work for the business. So, although it might seem like you're letting go of some of your profit from every appointment, you're actually being supported by that business because they're providing a stable arrangement for you to build your clientele. And then once you have built up a full clientele, then I recommend moving to a rental situation. So in salons, sometimes it's a booth rental or a chair rental. It's very common now to rent a suite or a room. And in a rental arrangement, you can handle all of your own details, but you're also responsible for all of your own operating costs. So, as a rental, you can handle your own schedule, booking, your sales of products, but you also are on the hook for all of those expenses that were covered under a commission, such as rent, utilities, retail, and back bar. So, again, when you're considering how you want to start your career in this industry, if you have a lot of professional experience, then you might be able to move straight into a commission arrangement, right? If you already know what kind of time you have and what kind of work is going to work for you. People who are brand new, who maybe like haven't spent a lot of time in college or as professionals, I usually recommend that they start as an assistant or as an apprentice. But people who do have some professional experience can jump right into a commission arrangement. Um, it's also important to think about how well you personally budget money because jumping straight into being self-employed or owning your own business is going to be a big challenge for someone who doesn't have any experience budgeting or running profit and loss sheets. And then finally, thinking about your own personal network is going to really help you make these decisions, right? If you just moved to an area, you might not know a lot of people in the area. But if you've been working a while, so you have professional contacts, you're local, so that you have a lot of personal contacts, then that's going to support you being able to build your roster of clients. Next slide. So, why do I love my industry so much? What are the benefits of a career in the salon or the spa? There are so many. I'm so passionate about this industry. So, first of all, independence. This is a great opportunity to build your career as you see fit, right? That was one of the things that really attracted me to becoming a cosmetologist is I wanted to be able to set my own schedule. I wanted to be able to wear what I want and get as many tattoos as I want and to really be judged on the quality of my work and my relationship building as opposed to suiting up and showing up every day at a corporate job. So I really loved that independence to set my own schedule, to specialize in the things that I'm passionate about, and also really to determine the direction of my career. Where do I want to work and who do I want to work with? And being able to make those choices. Entrepreneurship is another major benefit of working in this industry. You can build your business in a lot of different ways. You can be self employed and only work for yourself. You can be part of a team. or you can join like a much bigger team in terms of like a corporate or a major salon chain. There's a lot of different ways to participate on a level of building your own business. And then finally, I find that there's a lot of personal empowerment in this industry. Um, each person has that individual direction to, again, choose what they want to specialize in, to educate themselves, and to grow as a professional, and to share the things that you've learned with others. Next slide. Okay, so what is a path to licensure? How do we get into this industry? So as I mentioned earlier, in California, you have to go to I mean, this is in any state. Any state is going to have a licensure board, and they approve curriculum at schools to earn hours towards your license. So every school is going to have a combination of training you in theoretical concepts and then helping you practice your skills that you're going to use once you enter the industry. Cosmetology in California, our programs are 1,000 hours. And that, again, is a combination of your theoretical education and your applied skills. Esthetician programs in California are 600 hours. So both of these programs include actually a surprising amount of science. So that includes chemistry, electricity, understanding the pH scale and how acids and alkalis work on the skin and the hair. We also learn anatomy, including the bones and the muscles and the nerves, because all of those are stimulated during a shampoo or a scalp massage or a facial service. And then we also learn about microbiology and infection control because sanitation and safety are one of the most important concepts in our industry. So the skills that you might learn in a cosmetology program are going to include hair cutting, hair styling, learning color and chemical texturing like perming, relaxing chemicals, and keratin treatments. Cosmos learn basic facials, and then we also learn manicuring and pedicuring and nail enhancements. Esthetician programs, again, all of those sciences are the same, but esthetician programs study much deeper the layers of the skin and the structures embedded in the skin and how the skin actually functions. We also learn facial massage, exfoliation, a lot of product knowledge about cleansers, exfoliants, serums, peels, and lash and brow design. So once you've completed all of your educational hours and all of your educational skills, then you apply for and hopefully pass on the first try your licensing exam at the State Board of Barbering and Cosmetology. So the exam is it's a computer-based test. It's multiple choice, and it's offered in a variety of different languages. So depending on what language you've studied in or what language you first learned to speak, you can apply to take your test in a variety of languages. Next slide. Okay, so all of those are basics in education, and then there are a few areas in which you do need additional training to offer these at your place of business. For cosmetologists, this might include hair extensions um, or lash extensions. So typically, hair extensions are taught like more in a one-on-one environment as opposed to in a school, right? You don't need to know any of these things in order to get your license. So they're typically taught out in the industry. So if you want to learn extensions, that would look like training with a salon or a specific brand like Hair Dreams or Cinderella, or a stylist that you work with who does extensions. So there's a lot of different methods of extensions, including tapes, wefts, eye tips, and keratin bonds. So that's why it's important to kind of get one-on-one extension training in a particular method. Okay, if you're interested in learning braiding and weaves and also locking, first of all, those things don't specifically require a cosmetology license. In California, they're considered natural hair care, and you don't need a license to practice those things. However, I recommend that if you're having contact with any clients and anyone getting their hair done, that you do get a cosmetology license because we learned so much about sanitation and client protection. And those are really great ways to protect yourself and your clients. And also, your clients, once they trust you to give them one particular service, then they're going to ask you to broaden your services, right? So if you only know how to braid, but you don't know how to do chemicals or color, you're cutting yourself off from potential profitability. So, um, so think about getting a cosmetology license, even if natural hair care is your passion. Um, this same thing goes for weaves and wigs. Again, you can learn those in an apprenticeship arrangement, and you don't necessarily need a license for those, but I believe that everyone should go through the training and get themselves a license so that they can offer everything to their clients instead of just a few things. So, two areas of specialization that require additional training for estheticians are going to be treatments involving blades and also lasers and injectables. So blade treatments might include dermaplaning or microblading. Microblading is like adding pigment to the brows to make them look fuller, and it's very similar to tattooing. So typically, a microblading certification is going to also require training in blood-borne pathogens, and that could change from state to state. So if that is your interest, I do recommend that you do a little research and find out what is going to be required in order to offer microblading or permanent makeup. And then laser and injectables. These are offerings in med spas, but laser and injectables are not under an esthetician license. So if that's where you want to go eventually, absolutely get your esthetician license, but plan to also enroll in training to become a registered nurse in order to administer laser treatments, injectables like Botox or filler. Next slide. Okay, so who is this for? Who are we, and what kind of personality is going to really set you up for success as a cosmetologist or an esthetician? Um, First of all, it's great to be creative. I love this industry because I do get so many outlets to be creative because every client is slightly different, right? We all have skin and we all have hair, but nobody is exactly the same as anyone else. So we get to customize each of our treatments for clients. And what that really opens us up to do is looking at each person as an individual and looking to create a customized look for their hair, their skin, or their nails. Cosmos or estheticians should be engaged. It's not hard to fully immerse yourself in your career if you're passionate about it. So we believe in always getting more professional education, more development, trying new products, learning new skills, partnering with new products or manufacturers, because the more you have to offer your clients and the more things you learn, the more excited and engaged you get about your career. And then if you really want to be successful as a cosmetologist or an esthetician, you're going to be a self-starter because On one hand, you get to be so independent and build your career the way that you want. But on the other hand, that means always selling yourself, always looking for opportunities to grow, and always building your skills and knowledge. So think about, can you combine analysis and critical thinking? Because we're always looking to see, like, what's the story of this person's hair or their nails or their skin, right? What have they been doing at home? What have they already had from a professional? And how can I build on that in order to create the results that they're looking for? We also spend a lot of time building relationships, right? The best people who do your hair, your skin, or your nails are people that you really trust and enjoy spending time with. So we spend a lot of time building relationships and getting to know our clients because we occupy a very close role in their lives. We're there for their weddings, for having children, for weathering the ups and downs of relationships. So relationships are very important to our career. And then also, like, learning how to model the things that you offer, right? We always want to look the part and we want to describe our offerings with confidence. Next slide. Okay, so let's say that you are interested in joining this industry. Congratulations. I hope to see you soon. But here are some action steps if you are interested in becoming a cosmetologist or an esthetician. So you're going to want to do a little homework because you want to research a school to find out if that is going to be the right place for you. So we do have public and private institutions that will train you to get a license. So everybody has the same curriculum because we get approved by state board and everybody takes the same test. So that's why it's really important to choose a school that's convenient to your home because you're going to be commuting there every day, where you do feel a genuine connection with the students there and the staff and faculty that work there. And then also thinking about how much it's going to cost, right? This is an investment in your future. So, really doing your homework in terms of, are you eligible for financial aid? What are the financial expectations of this school? How much is it going to cost for you to get started? Those things are really important to consider before you drop everything and start going to school. What are your overall expenses going to be? And can you manage that while you're in school full time? So, as I mentioned, we do have public and private education. So, public schools are like the one I work at. We're usually at community colleges. So, Skyline, College of San Mateo, we are public education. And then private educations usually partner with brands. So in San Francisco, there's a Paul Mitchell school, there's an Aveda school. So public education, we don't typically partner with a particular brand, but in private education, they're training you on the products and the methods that are appropriate to that brand at the same time that you're getting your general education towards your license. And then also the best way to decide if this is right for you is to go out and start interviewing some working professionals. Um, Visit your local salons and spas, start building relationships with the people who work there. If you can afford it, book yourself a service and ask them what their experience was like going to school and building in the industry. Because again, so much of this industry is built on relationships and on how we communicate and connect with people. So if you feel as though you've found your new home when you go into a salon or a spa, that means that that's really going to be the right place for you. And those are going to be the right people to connect with for you. And ask professionals as many questions as you can because like I mentioned before, all of us are so passionate about what we do. We love to share and we love to welcome new people into our industry. That's the most exciting thing is being able to share how much we love what we do. Next slide. I just want to thank all of you for your interest and for coming today. And I'm so excited to answer your questions. So, Lori, I hope that you found some good questions in the chat that we can explore.
Okay, let me check the Q&A. Um, I don't see a question in the Q&A. So please feel free to put your question in the Q&A and I will read them aloud. While we are waiting for questions from the audience, I have a question for you, Lynsey. Um, what should aspiring cosmetologists or esthetician know about building their portfolio early on in their careers?
Okay, this is a great question. Fortunately, social media is so supportive of what it is that we do. And I do find that it's really facilitated being able to both take pictures of your work as you're growing your skills and also being able to attract new clients. So just by following a lot of new people in the industry, number one, you're going to get inspired and excited about things that you're seeing from other professionals. And number two, it's a really great way of using hashtags for the things that you offer and where you're located to find new clients. So that's my advice is really to start building your social media presence as soon as you start in school because that's going to help you get ideas and learn, and then also start attracting people into your treatment room or into your chair super quick.
Thank you so much, Lynsey. I see a few questions from the
Mhm.
audience. A question from Monique. Is there a crossover for cosmetology and aesthetics?
Yes, thank you for mentioning this, Monique. Okay, so we do offer at Skyline, we specifically offer crossover programs from cosmetology. You can cross over into aesthetics or into barbering. So, um, not every school offers a crossover program, but a lot of them do. So that could kind of go on your question list when you're looking for a school. So what a crossover program actually is because I mentioned that we study a lot of the same things, right? We study sanitation, anatomy, electricity, all of those sciences. State board doesn't really require you to learn those things twice. So once you've learned all of kind of the core of those sciences in cosmetology, then you can cross over into aesthetics or barbering just by learning the specialized skills that are included in those licenses. So when I crossed over into esthetician, instead of spending 600 hours, I think I spent 300 hours. I should have double checked this before this presentation, but I do encourage you to do your own research um, because all I needed to learn was, extra information about the skin. I needed to practice my facial skills and learn more advanced things like exfoliation, micro microdermabrasion, chemical peels, etc. So it helped me be able to get my esthetician license faster, as opposed to having to re-enroll and start from zero in a typical full-length program. So, as I mentioned, we also have that for barbering. So, in a barbering crossover, you just learn how to shave, work on the beard, and specialize in clipper cutting.
Thank you, Lynsey. Question from Miles. How can I find a good salon to apprentice at? I'm nervous I'll choose the wrong one. Should I make a physical book of my work?
You can make a physical book of your work if you want to, if that feels authentic to you. If you're a little rusty on social media or, generationally that doesn't really speak to you, you can 100% put together a portfolio of your work. Um, what I found as a new stylist is that think of it this way. We can train any skill, right? Anyone can become a cosmetologist or an esthetician because a lot of it is about learning the details of the products that you're working with and then learning how to do something with your hands, right? So, skills and knowledge can be taught to anybody, but personalities and relationships aren't really something that you can teach. So, when you're looking for a place to work, what's most important is feeling as though, like, these are your people, these are people who are easy to get along with, who share the same values and culture as you do, and that they want to teach you and help you develop as a professional. So I actually think that that's probably the most important thing to look for in a place to work is whether you have a good connection with that team. And then don't be afraid to ask questions. Not every salon offers like an apprenticeship or an assistant position, um, but enough of them do that it's important to ask those questions about like, oh, well, what can you train me on? How long is that? What would you pay me? What is the typical time that someone spends as an assistant? Um, what kind of support do they give you in building your book so that you can move to the next level of career growth? Yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Thank you, Lindsay. Question from Megan. What is your best advice on interviewing to be an assistant with a salon? What should you look for?
I mean, I hope that I answered some of these ideas in the last response, but in terms of interviewing, um, I I think a lot of people get very self-conscious when they're right out of school because they don't have very much experience, right? Um, but since everybody's had to go through this, since every single cosmetologist in the state of California had to go through beauty school, we know what it's like to come out of school and to not have any polish on your skills and to like, still have some gaps in your learning and have a little space to need to grow, right? So again, I think that's why it's so important to really feel a sense of connection and opportunity in a place where you're interviewing. And then also, not to kind of get your heart set on one place. I really recommend like casting kind of a wide net to look at more than one place to work because being able to kind of compare and contrast like offers or opportunities or people that you're going to be working with, that's going to help you kind of make that decision and take a little bit of the pressure off as well.
Thank you, Lindsay. As a low-income student, are there assistance for me if I decide to transfer into other programs?
Oh, this is a good question. Okay. Um, Straight out of the gate, it has been my experience that public education programs have a little bit more to offer in terms of support. Um, for example, because we are a program at Skyline College, we have access to things like our Educational Access Center, which can support our students with that are neurodivergent. We also have access to a food bank and grocery benefits. And then we also, have access to a lot of grants and federal funding that can support our low income students. So there are certain resources that you may find at a public institution that you may or may not find at a private institution. I do know that a lot of private institutions are accredited, and so they can offer you financial aid. So yeah, my advice for you is to really do your research and see what kind of support that institution can offer you. Because the biggest expense for me as a new student was actually not my tuition, because I was eligible for a Pell Grant and for some financial aid. So I got a lot of my tuition covered. But in cosmetology, there's a pretty big upfront cost of buying all of your equipment because we need blow dryers and flat irons and aprons and capes and scissors, etc. So the kind of the initial cost of your education, like that's the thing that's the hardest to come by sometimes, is scaring up the money for your kit. So investigating things like payment plans or financial aid is really going to help support you as a low income student.
Thank you, Lindsay. When looking for an assistant program or position, what would you recommend a newly licensed stylist ask a potential salon? As there are many salons who hire or say they have an assistant program, but then take advantage of the new hires.
Okay. I would say that probably the most important thing that you're looking for as an assistant is education, because that is what's going to help you both grow your independence and also grow your clientele. The big challenges for new stylists or anyone who's new in the industry, right, is gaining experience, which kind of helps you build that confidence, and then also gaining your speed, right? No one wants a haircut to take 3 hours. It's an expectation that you can kind of get in and out of a salon in a reasonable amount of time. So so learning those types of things and kind of getting tips and tricks from other people that you work with is really important. So I would say number one, make sure um, that there's education built into that apprentice program. And what that means is like get a timeline on that. Like, how often am I going to be taking classes? What are the classes that you offer? How often do I need to provide models, right? If if the owner of that salon can't provide you with like a specific timeline, then that's kind of a red flag. Because an assistant program, it should have like a very specific timeline associated with it to help you grow, because the sooner that they can grow you into someone who is seeing a full book of clients, then that's going to be more profitable for the salon than just having someone to answer phones and sweep. So make sure that your education is a number one priority. And then also, don't be afraid to ask about an hourly wage and about benefits, because you are going to be an employee. But it should be like, don't accept something that's paying you under the table, because that's not going to benefit you long term. You need to be an actual employee of the salon so that you have rights and protections.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is there anything you wish you had known while you were while you were a Cosmos student?
I mean, so many things. Um, let me think. The beauty school was surprisingly a lot more difficult than I thought it was gonna be. So don't there's a myth that cosmetology school is really easy, and the people that perpetuate that myth are people who have not been to cosmetology school. So, there's actually a surprising amount of homework involved because, like I said, we are learning a lot of those sciences and learning how to mix chemicals and use fractions to create color formulations. It's actually surprisingly scientific and surprisingly academic. And the other thing that I kind of had to learn the hard way was that because because this is an hours program, right? You have to spend 1,000 hours in school. So keeping up your attendance is a major challenge also, right? Because we all have lives, we have families, we have jobs, we have commutes, we have other pressures in our life to deal with. Um, just showing up to school every day is probably the most important thing because all of these programs move really quickly. And so in an academic program, you might be able to miss a few classes and then come back and be like, oh, well, I'm just behind on the reading. But when you miss a day when, like, oh, we were learning chemical peels that day and you didn't learn it, or, oh, yeah, we learned like how to cut an angled bob that day and you weren't here. Um, that can create a major challenge for students. So be prepared for homework and then be prepared that you need to come to class. Oh, and there's one other thing. Um, we all have a dress code, so you gotta wear a uniform. That's the other thing is that like it made me feel as though I was like a little kid sometimes, um, having to show up in a particular dress code. But, everybody in the industry is used to wearing all black all the time. So, the sooner that you can wrap your head around those expectations, the easier time you'll have in school.
Thank you. How do I build my clientele?
This is something that I'm talking a lot about with my class of seniors that's getting ready to graduate right now. Is It's a lot of like faking it till you make it. You really have to have faith in your abilities because the best way to build your clientele is kind of talking about what you do all the time. So when I was still trying to build my books as a young stylist, the easiest way I found to build my clientele was to like wear my hair in some crazy way. I had like pink hair for a little while, I had a faux hawk for a little while. And every time someone would compliment me on my hair, I'd be like, thanks, I do hair. Here's my card. I mean, nowadays you say, here's my Instagram. Um, so you really can't be afraid to sell yourself. Um, as you're still learning, and you're still building your confidence, that is probably the hardest part to get people in your chair is to be like, "Sure, I can cut your hair. I'm gonna do an amazing job," or, like, "Yeah, I would love to wax your eyebrows," even if you're not sure that you can do it. But, having faith in your own abilities and the fact that, like, you went to school and they didn't, so right out of the gate, you have more knowledge than they do. So obviously, you're going to do a better job than they could do doing any of those things at home. Um, so not being afraid to kind of drop that into conversation on a regular basis and to just again cast a wide net. Start with your friends and family and work out from there. And don't be afraid to tell every single person you know that you're in school for this and looking for models.
Very, very good advice. Thank you so much, Lindsay. As a new stylist, how can I make sure I'm staying updated on state board requirements as they change over time?
Okay, this is a great question. I will tell you this. The industry changes faster than state board. It's a governmental entity, so sometimes they're a little bit slow to respond. Like, for example, eyelash extensions were sort of a wild west for a few years, so there was a lot of people doing lash extensions that didn't have a license. Um, and that kind of limbo period lasted probably like 5 years before state board finally added that into the requirements that you have to have a cosmetology or aesthetics license in order to do lash extensions. um, so in our industry, we love new techniques, we love new technology. There's always like a new method or terminology or something popping up on TikTok or Instagram. So following other professionals is a great way to, get inspired and to kind of see what kind of trends are happening. And then to stay abreast on State Board, you can just join a mailing list. Um, they have a lot of really good information on their website, and they have social media also. It's not as exciting, but they have really good reminders. And then they have regular like town halls or seminars that you can log into. And they do also broadcast their meetings and they'll release minutes from their meetings. So if you really like, reading very dense agendas, then that's a way to keep up on state board. Um, but otherwise, they send out pretty regular memos and communications just about responses to things that are happening in the industry.
Thank you, Lynsey. It's 3 o'clock, but we have three more questions from you. Do you mind stay for a
I
few
can
more
stay.
minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. What advice do you have to someone who wants to start a business and continue this career?
Okay, great. Um, I think it's one of the easiest industries to start a business in. And also, like, again, there are so many people that work for themselves and that are so successful. Um, that being said, it can be really, really difficult to kind of learn a lot of those lessons on your own. So if you are thinking about starting a business, I actually think like partnering with someone or developing like those relationships first before you kind of like, so let's say that you start as an apprentice in a salon, you train under a master stylist, and then also like form friendships with a couple of other people at the salon. So I would recommend after you've worked together for a few years, then kind of branch out either in a group arrangement or on your own. Um, but I think one of the most frequent mistakes that people make when they're starting their own business or when they're becoming self-employed is that they don't do enough research about how to plan to be successful. So, really taking the time to create a business plan, to discover how much you need to have saved, how much your operating costs are going to be, whether like are you going to have employees or are you going to have contractors, um, are your expenses going to be stable or are they going to fluctuate? All of those things can really help to protect you from everything from not knowing what your estimated taxes are going to be to um, falling victim to economic fluctuations, because although like haircuts are pretty recession proof, like not everybody needs lash extensions in a recession. So thinking about how you can plan to be financially successful in your business is just as important as like, do I have enough clients to fill my book? And, am I working with people that I like in a neighborhood that is safe and profitable with good parking? All of those things are important. So, probably the best advice about starting your own business would like just be to not be in a rush to start that and to really make sure that you are doing all the homework and all the financials and all the boring paperwork stuff before you make that leap into becoming self-employed.
Thank you, Lindsay. How do I make this career more fulfilling? Something I can do to give back to my community?
Oh, I love this. I find it hugely fulfilling. I do think though that that's partly from teaching. Because I worked in the salon for quite a long time, and the the reward that I feel about like establishing relationships with clients and becoming close to people as their hairstylist, like that is super rewarding. I don't know how many people I've felt so blessed to be part of their weddings or being able to watch their kids grow up. All of those things are very rewarding. But as far as like giving back to your community, there's a lot of like organizations that you can partner with. So, um, I can follow up with more details, Lori, but there are a number of like advocacy programs if you're interested in ministering to people who are unhoused or who are like in transitional housing and might not have access to things like being able to get a haircut or a shave. In order to go for a job interview, right? So I would suggest like offering your services to community organizations that are supporting our at-risk populations because that can be a really great way of giving back to your community and of supporting people who really need our services but who may not be able to pay for them in like a commercial sense. Um, when I was in school, we partnered with a huge event that I think they had at either like the Bill Graham in the city, where it was like an event where we were cutting hair, but other people who were unhoused they had access to showers and medical care, and they could get their vision checked and flu shots and stuff like that. And that was a very rewarding experience. What you can also do is sometimes assisted living facilities will be looking for cosmetologists or estheticians to take care of their residents as well. Because, being able to attend to your own grooming and hygiene is something that like not everyone can still do if they have mobility issues or if they've suffered a stroke or dementia. And so I did work in an assisted living facility for a little while after I was newly licensed, and that also showed me just how blessed I am to have my health and and a job and all of my faculties. So I hope that answered your question.
Thank you, Lindsay. One last question.
Yeah.
It's about you. What is your specialty? Is that something you already knew or a skill you learned at school and find out that you're really good at it?
Uh, hmm. Well, let's see. I knew as a baby stylist, like I knew immediately that wanted to that I was in love with hair color. Like that was always exciting to me. Um, it took me a little bit longer to fall in love with hair cutting because to me that was very mathy. And it involves a lot of elevations and projections and like thinking about how the hair is going to fall. And it took me a long time to learn like, oh, if I hold my hands like this, then the hair is going to look like this. So that was difficult. But let's see. I I love always learning new things, and it was a really interesting experience to like I mentioned, I got my Cosmo license like almost 20 years ago now, and then I've only had my esthetician license for a few years. So entering a crossover program as a student like really helped me remember that like, oh, okay, yeah, it is hard to stay on top of my homework and I do need to be in dress code and on time every day. So that was very humbling. But I think that getting my license as an esthetician like really helped me appreciate that like there's always something new that you can learn in this industry, right? Like once you think you know everything there is to know about, I don't know, blonding, right? Then some new product or technique enters the market and you're like at ground zero again. Um, or you can just kind of switch your emphasis, you know? It's like I did extensions for like a teeny weeny amount of time, enough to know that like that is not really for me. But but bridal styling came super easy to me. Like I love making people look like princesses. It feels like playing with my Barbies when I was a little kid. So I think like that's another really great takeaway about this industry is that whenever you think you know everything in one aspect, then there's like a new area for you to explore and for you to build your skills and your knowledge in that area. So it never gets boring. Every day for 20 years has been different from the day before. And I love that so much about my industry is that the relationships are amazing. The the creativity is really fueling and that there's always something new to learn. So I hope that I communicated that well with everyone today. Thank you so much.
You did. Thank you so much, Lynsey.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing your experience and valuable insights with all of us today. We truly appreciate your time and expertise. And to everyone in the audience, thank you so much for attending and for your thoughtful and engaging questions. Your participations really added to the value of this section. And we look forward to seeing you at our next event. Just a reminder, I'll be sending out a brief evaluation survey and a link to today's recording. Your feedback is incredibly important to us, so please take a moment to share your thoughts, help us improve future programs. Thank you once again, everyone. Wish you all a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank
Bye bye.
you.